So I think I should be a bit better now. It should be a bit better now, my audio. It should be a bit better now. I can see Opiri says loud and clear. Yes, but we can't see you. I think right now you can be able to see me. So I'm here. You should actually be able to see me. You should actually be able to see me. So I can see Marceline, so make sure you are on mute. Marceline, make sure you mute yourself. And don't unmute yourself again. Don't unmute yourself again. Marceline, kindly make sure you're actually on mute. Don't unmute yourself. Don't unmute yourself. Make sure you're actually on mute. So I think I should actually be better now. So try to change something there. So I hope I should actually now be better. So and I think we can be able to proceed. So where we was basically saying that the proper authority to be able to convene a meeting in a company, it is usually the board of directors, or you can simply say the directors of the company. But if basically if it happens that they have not actually convened the meeting as per the requirements of the law, it simply means that the members can be able to take a step. How do they take a step? They can go to the court. And what the court will be able to do is to give out an order that the company should actually be able to convene a meeting. So failure to convene the meeting by the proper authority, that is the directors of the company, the members can be able to take a step by simply going to the court, and the court can actually be able to give out an order that the meeting be convened in the company. So this meeting will basically be convened by sending out a notice. Either the members or the parties who are supposed to attend the meeting, with the directors, whether basically they are the creditors, so they'll be able to get a notice from the directors of the company. So once that notice is basically given out, the notice basically what will be contained there. It is important basically you know what will be contained in the notice. In the notice, it is quite obvious. It's just like a notice of like any other meeting you know of. That in the notice basically you'll be able to know where will be the venue of the meeting. You'll be able to know what is the date and time of the meeting. You'll be able to tell what will be the agendas at that particular meeting, what will be the agendas at that particular meeting. You'll be able to tell basically what exactly will actually happen in the meeting in terms of if there is actually any resolution that is supposed to be passed or actually approved at the meeting. Also, you'll be able to tell who was actually convening the meeting. Then probably maybe if it is a company, it could have what we call a company seal. It will likely be sealed or stamped by the company. Because in the exam, they could simply ask, what are the contents of a notice of a public limited company? And then you start scratching your head, thinking is that the notice is usually very different from any other notice. A notice of a meeting is just a notice of a meeting. The notice basically will tell you where is the meeting. It will tell you what is the date and time of the meeting. It will tell you the agendas you are going to discuss at the meeting. It will basically also indicate there who is convening the meeting. For example, in this case, you said the proper authority to convene a meeting in a company is the board of directors. Probably it will have the company secretary and the chairman of the board signing that particular notice, clearly indicating it is actually an authentic notice convening a meeting for the company. And then it can have what we call a company seal, just to indicate that that notice is actually originating from the company. And then we are saying under the Companies Act, so the notice basically be like a 21-day notice. For example, if it's a general meeting or an annual general meeting, it is normally at least 21-day notice, clearly indicating that it will be held at a particular date. So the difference should actually basically be 21 days or at least 21 days notice. And then at these meetings of the company should actually, at these particular meetings, minutes will be maintained. And of course, in this case, you know, like in any kind of formal meeting, whether it's a chairman meeting, whether it's which kind of meeting, you'll hear people saying who is taking the minutes. So the same case, like in a company, minutes will actually be maintained, probably by a person known as the company secretary. So the company secretary basically should actually be able to ensure he or she is actually maintaining the minutes at the company meetings. So what will be the content? What will be the content? What will be the content? So what will be the contents? So I need to add my volume. So the mic is not clear. I don't know what is the problem today. What is the problem today? Problem. You can see Cheryl says I add my volume, but I think the volume is actually at maximum at my end. So I don't know what is the problem today. Are you now hearing me? Are you able to hear me? Cheryl, are you able to hear me a bit better? Can see Rukia says yes. What about Cheryl? It's your mic. What is wrong with my mic? What is wrong with my mic? I can see Ben. Ben, are you able to hear me a bit better? Yes, but you are low. Yes, but you are low. Or maybe you are unwell today. Or maybe you are unwell today, so you are speaking in low tones. I think basically I'm just speaking the way I'm usually audible is just the same. I haven't changed. I don't know what is the problem. I don't know what is the problem with the mic today. But from my side, I can see the audio should be coming very clearly. So I don't know what is happening. I don't know what is happening. From my side, I can see it is telling me that the audio should actually be coming very clearly. So I can see Juliet says it's okay. I can see Juliet says it's okay. I can see Juliet says it's okay. Put the mic next to your mouth. The mic is near my mouth. So that is basically where I've been putting the mic. So I don't know why the mic should be so close. Basically, I've even been putting it a bit lower, and the audio actually basically goes very clearly. So I think we can continue. I think we can continue. So we are saying that for the case of the minutes, so basically they've just been maintained like minutes of any other kind of meeting. Because basically they could ask what are the contents of a board of directors minutes, a board of directors meeting minutes in a company, a board of directors meeting minutes in a company. What are the contents of a board of directors meeting in a company? So that is basically the question that will come in the exam. And of course, basically you start asking yourself that now, how do these minutes actually look like? You've learned about minutes in English, when you're studying English in high school. So these are how minutes are supposed to be drafted. So what do you normally start with? You start with the place and time that particular meeting was actually held. So this particular meeting was actually basically held at this particular hotel from this particular time up to this particular time. Next, you normally go to those actually in attendance. Those who are basically attending the meeting. In this case, you say, for example, if it is a board of directors meeting, If it is a board of directors meeting, the directors were actually in attendance, and those ones were actually basically absent, maybe with apologies, and those basically were just absent. They didn't give any form of apologies. To start with date and time, the place the meeting was actually held, the directors in attendance, those absent with apologies, those who didn't give any apologies, they were next to the meeting. Basically, maybe you could actually indicate who was the chairman of the meeting, who was the secretary of the meeting. And then next you'll go to the agendas that were actively discussed at the meeting. So what actually happened in that particular meeting? So we'll go to the agenda 1 is what actually happened. Agenda 2 is what was discussed. Agenda 3 is what was actually discussed. And then after that, basically, you normally go to any other form of business. So any other business that was actually basically discussed at the meeting. And then at the end of it all, basically the minutes must actually be signed by the chairman and of course the secretary of the meeting. The chairman and of course the secretary of the meeting. The chairman and of course the secretary of the meeting. So that basically will be part of the contents of the minutes of a company meeting, the minutes of a company meeting. And then the next key essentials, we are saying that in any kind of meeting, you'll basically hear people say, who is the chairman? Who is the secretary? So the chairman actually basically is a very important person at a company meeting. So for any kind of meeting, then basically it simply means that there must be the chairman of that particular meeting. So this particular chairman basically will have certain powers and duties to be able to perform at these particular meetings of the company. For example, part of the duties will actually include, let's say, for example, confirming that basically there has been proper quorum to be able to commence or continue with the meeting's business. Another thing that you'll actually be able to ensure is that there's actually what we call order at the meeting. So there's actually orderliness in the meeting. I think that you'll actually be able to ensure at that particular meeting. So this chairman will actually basically act upon any point of order that is actually raised by the members attending the meeting. For example, if there are actually basically any form of interjections by any member of the company during the discussion, then he has the right to be able to maybe to give a permission to this particular person to be able to raise his point or not. Another thing is that this chairman will be able to give guidance or basically guide the members of the company on how they are supposed to be able to vote in case there is any resolution that has to be voted or approved at that particular kind of meeting. So another duty that he has is, for example, to eject any person causing any form of disturbance at the meeting. So if there's any person basically who's causing any form of disturbance at the meeting, then he can actually be able to eject such kind of a person. Another thing that he'll be able to do as the chairman is to remove any person who doesn't have the authority or has the right to be able to attend the meeting. For example, if there's actually an intruder in the meeting, the chairman should actually be able to give out an order for such kind of a person to be removed from the meeting, the meeting. So those will be part of the duties of this person we are calling the chairman of the meeting. Also, he has certain powers. For example, the first power that he has in this case is to be able to use his vote in good faith or in the best interest of the company. For example, if there's a tie, probably there could be a tie in the voting, in terms of voting. So basically, him or her as a chairman, he can be able to vote so that he can actually basically be the tiebreaker. So he has the power to be able to use his vote in good faith or in the best interest of the company in case there's actually a tie in the voting concerning matters, concerning the matters of the company. Also, another power that he has, but this one basically derives from the members of the company attending the meeting, he has the power to be able to adjourn or postpone the meeting. So you can be able to give out an order adjourning or actually postpone the meeting to maybe another date. Part of the reasons that can actually be able to make this particular meeting to be adjourned, for example, if something that has actually happened that is actually beyond the control or maybe the chairman or those attending the meeting. Let's say, for example, at the place where the meeting was supposed to be held, there is a disaster that has happened. So you continue holding the meeting, so you can't actually continue to hold the meeting. Basically, you'll be able to postpone it maybe to another date. Maybe it could be a reason, let's say, for example, there is actually no quorum at that particular meeting. So they can't actually be able to continue with the business at that particular meeting. So therefore, you can actually be able to postpone or actually ask for the meeting to be held at a future date. So those are part of the powers that this particular person you are calling the chairman has in terms of being able to control the matters concerning the company, control the matters concerning the company. And then we are also saying that there should be what we call a proper quorum to be able to hold the meeting. Let's say, for example, they want to pass what we call a special resolution. So for special resolutions, what normally happens, there must be at least 75% of the persons who are supposed to attend and actually vote at such kind of meetings for the business to be able to continue in such kind of meetings. So the quorum should actually be there. So there should be a proper quorum before the meeting can actually continue. That's what you are saying. If there's no proper quorum, then the chairman has the power to be able to ask for the meeting to be adjourned or postponed to a future date. So there should actually always be a proper quorum. And it is actually very important when it comes to the point of actually being able to vote on matters concerning the company, So one thing I haven't told you is that when the notice of the meeting is actually being sent out, normally what they normally do, or the company does, they'll be able to attach also what we call a proxy form. So what do you mean by a proxy? What do you mean by a proxy? A proxy is a person who can actually be able to represent, or basically represent, a member of a company at a company meeting in case the member of the company is not actually able to attend the meeting, maybe due to unavoidable circumstances. Let's say, for example, he's actually away on duty, maybe out of the country, or basically is actually maybe away due to illness or sickness. So you can be able to appoint a proxy, someone to be able to represent him at the company meeting. So that's why when they send out the notice of meeting, the company should actually be able to also attach a proxy form, such that you as a member of the company, you can be able to fill out the proxy form clearly indicating, for example, if it is Job, who is the member of the company, then he's not actually able to attend, you can be able to fill out a proxy form actually appointing Gabriel to be able to represent Job at that particular meeting. So the proxy form basically is to give this particular member of the company the ability to be able to appoint someone to represent him at the meeting. So what will happen in this case, you as a member of the company, you can be able to guide the proxy as to how he can actually be able to vote when they now basically go to that, when basically now the matters concerning that particular meeting have come to a point whereby now they are supposed to vote on such kind of matters. So you can be able to guide your proxy and basically clearly indicate to him how he can be able to vote at such kind of meetings. So a proxy is simply a person who can actually be able to represent a member of the company at a meeting in case this particular member of the company is not actually able to attend. When the notice of the meeting is being sent out, they also attach, the company also attaches a proxy form, so that in this proxy form, a member of a company can be able to appoint a proxy to represent him in case he's not actually able to attend the meeting, So we are ideally saying that the quorum is usually very important when it comes to the point, especially when they have to vote on matters concerning the company, or resolutions concerning the company. So I want us to look at the types of meetings that can actually be held in a company. So there are several types of meetings that can actually be held in a company. So number one, you can have what we call an annual general meeting. So an annual general meeting, sometimes we just call it an AGM. Number two, you can simply have what we call just a general meeting. Just a general meeting, not an AGM, but just a general meeting. So any other kind of meeting apart from the AGM. You can also have, let's say, for example, a class meeting. So that is number three, a class meeting. You can also be able to have also, let's say, for example, accreditors meetings. You can also have accreditors meeting. So those are some of the types of meetings that can actually happen in a company. So we've said number one, annual general meeting. In short, we call it an AGM. Number two, just a general meeting, just called a general meeting. Number three, a class meeting. Number four, accreditors meeting. Those are some of the types of meetings that can actually be held in a company. So what is an AGM? You've said number one, it is actually an AGM. What is an AGM? What is an AGM? So an AGM is a type of meeting that is normally held once each and every year by the company as per the requirements of the Companies Act. It is a meeting that is normally held once each and every year as per the requirements of the Companies Act. Mostly, it is normally held within a period of 6 months after the end of the financial year. It is normally held mostly within a period of 6 months after the end of the financial year. Let's say, for example, if the end of the financial year of the company, it is normally December. Probably this meeting will be held between January and June the coming year. It is actually basically the financial year ends in March. Probably this meeting will be held between March and September the coming year. So we are saying an AGM is a type of meeting that is normally held once each and every year by the company. Number two key point, this meeting is mostly held within a period of 6 months after the end of the financial year. After the end of the financial year. What are normally the agendas at an AGM? Why do companies call for an AGM in the company? Why do the companies call for an AGM in the company? Agenda number one at an AGM. Number one, it is to approve the annual financial statements, or basically the books of accounts of the company. So that's what you are saying. It is mostly held within a period of 6 months after the end of the financial year. Basically, the books of accounts have already been prepared. And therefore, these books of accounts have basically been prepared for the interest of the shareholders or members of the company. So now, within a period of 6 months, so those books of accounts will be brought at the AGM, basically to be approved or verified, or basically just be approved by the members of the company. That is agenda number one. We are saying agenda number one at an AGM. It is normally to approve the books of accounts of the company, basically the financial statements of the company. Agenda number two is to approve the proposed dividends of the company. The proposed dividends of the company. So most companies basically will pay their dividends, after basically the end of the financial year, or basically after the AGM has actually been held. Agenda number three, appointments and reappointment of the auditors of the company. At that particular meeting is when now they'll be able to appoint who will basically take over as the auditor, or basically that previous auditor will actually be able to continue as the auditor of the company. Agenda number four, appointments and reappointment of directors of the company. Appointments and reappointment of directors of the company. That is agenda number four. At that particular meeting, they'll be able to appoint who will be the directors of the company for the next year. Or for example, if there's a vacancy in the office of a director, they'll be able to appoint another person to be able to take over or assume the duties of the director of that particular office. So agenda number five is any other agenda that deems fit for those persons convening the meeting to be able to be discussed at the AGM. But those four are usually the key agendas, so they'll never miss at an annual general meeting. So it said number one, approval of the annual financial statements. Number two, approval of the proposed dividends of the company. Number three, appointment and reappointment of auditors of the company. And then number four, appointment and reappointment of the directors of the company. And then number five, any other agenda that the persons convening that meeting deem fit to be discussed at such kind of a meeting. So my camera has gone off. Let me just try to change it a bit. I think it's quite okay now. So I think it's quite okay now. So we are saying those are the key agendas that basically will be discussed at an annual general meeting, because that question is normally common in the exam. So what are the key agendas at an annual general meeting of a company? So those ones you must never forget about them. So the way I've repeated them like 4 times right now, probably that question will likely be in the exam. So what are the key agendas? It has been tested like twice or thrice, twice or thrice in the exam, twice or thrice exam. So agenda number 2, I think Cheryl has not gotten the agenda number 2. So we've said agenda number 1, we've said approval of the annual financial statements. Agenda number 2, approval of the dividends of the company, or proposed dividends of the company. So that dividends they are going to pay the members of the company, basically likely be approved at that meeting we are calling the AGM. That meeting we are calling the AGM. And then we have meeting type number 2, which you've said it is just called a general meeting. What we mean by a general meeting, it is any other kind of meeting in a company which is not actually an AGM. So sometimes there could be urgent matters in the company, so you can't wait for the AGM so that you can discuss that kind of matters. A meeting can be convened urgently in the company, which is not an AGM, and therefore they deliberate on such kind of a matter. So any other kind of meeting which is not an annual general meeting of the members of the company will be called a general meeting. Will be called a general meeting. At this particular general meeting, the agendas basically will be any other kind of agenda which is not among the 4 we've actually mentioned. So maybe it could be a matter concerning share capital reduction. It could be a matter maybe concerning any other matter of the company which is not actually among the 4 key ones. So that case, maybe it could be a matter concerning liquidation of the company. So that one doesn't have to wait for the AGM. So they can convene a meeting abruptly. And that kind of a meeting will be called a general meeting. So a general meeting is any other kind of meeting in a company which is not actually an annual general meeting. So if there's an urgent matter in the company to basically be deliberated upon or discussed or agreed upon by the members of the company, then it doesn't have to wait for the AGM. So the company is actually able or actually allowed under the Companies Act to be able to convene a meeting called a general meeting, called a general meeting. So the agendas will be any other kind of agenda concerning the company which is not actually among the key ones which are supposed to be discussed at the AGM, which are supposed to be discussed at the annual general meeting, which are supposed to be discussed at the annual general meeting, discussed at the annual general meeting. Then we've said there's what we call a class meeting. So a class meeting, as I've explained to you, it is a meeting of members of a class of shares. I've already explained what is a class of shares. So I gave an example of preference shares. Maybe it could be ordinary shares. So it simply means that if the company is holding what we call a class meeting, those persons, all of them who are holding preference shares in that company will be meeting. And that kind of a meeting they'll be meeting in will be known as a class meeting. So mostly it is normally convened, for example, if the company is to do what we call variation of class rights, So remember, a class of shares will have rights attached to it as a class of shares. For example, if it is preference shares, we say for preference shares, the holders are actually able to get what we call preferential treatment. For example, in this case, they get dividends before any other class. So that is a right they actually enjoy. Another right we can be able to talk about, for example, for preference shares, is that they'll be paid first on the liquidation of the company. So that is a right they're actually enjoying. Another right you can be able to talk about, let's say, for example, in this case, you can be able to say their dividends is normally at specified rates. So there's a rate that is normally specified for them. In such a case, there's a rate that is normally specified for them for such a case. So those are the rights they actually enjoy. So let's say, for example, right now they want to vary those rights. Maybe they want to vary dividends from 5% to maybe 10%. So before that one actually happens, it simply means that they have to convene a meeting, which will actually be able to maybe pass a resolution approving such kind of a proposal to maybe vary their class rights, So a company cannot just basically maybe decide on any day or basically just wake up one day and say they are going basically to maybe vary the rights of members of a class of shares. The members of that particular class of shares must actually be able to authorize or approve it through what we call a special resolution. So a special resolution is one we say that at least 75% of persons who have the voting rights in that particular class of shares should actually be able to approve. So if the company is to do a class variation of the rights, or basically class rights variation, then the members of that class of shares would actually be able to approve. How will they approve? They'll simply approve by convening a meeting of class of shares, of the members of that class of shares. And then at the meeting, they'll pass what we are calling a special resolution. A special resolution is one that is supposed to be approved by at least 75% of members who are supposed to attend and actually vote at such kind of meeting. So in such a case, once they actually approve, then now the company can be able to proceed and do the class rights variation. Let's say, for example, in this case, if the company wanted to vary the rate of dividends maybe from 10% to 5%, it must be approved by members of that class of shares. Once they approve, then now the company can be able to now proceed and actually do the class rights variation. But what you have to note in this case, still, the majority of the members of that class of shares basically could approve the variation. So they could agree that, yes, we have agreed, we can basically reduce the dividends from maybe 10% to 5%. But the minority in that class have a right to be able to go to the court and actually object or petition the company from actually basically continuing to do the class rights variation. So the minority in this case will simply mean at least 15% of the holders of the shares in that class can object. Remember, 75% have approved. So 25% are not actually in agreement. So what option do they have to stop that variation? The option they have to stop that variation, it is simply to go to the court and of course petition the court and give evidence as to why they don't want the class rights in that class of shares to be varied. So basically the court will be able to analyze the evidence, and of course, if the court deems fit, then they'll be able to stop the company from actually continuing to vary the class rights. So the minority still have a leeway, so they have a leeway of how they can be able to stop it. How do they stop it? Simply petitioning the court, because in the exam they could ask, explain how class rights variation happens in a company. So how will it happen? So it will happen by the members of that class of shares actually convening a class meeting. Then, of course, they pass a special resolution to approve the class rights variation. So once they do that, the company can be able to proceed and do the variation of the class rights. But on the other hand, you can be able to say, however, the minority members in that class of shares can object to the variation by petitioning the court. What do you mean by petitioning? As I've said, they provide evidence or reasons as to why they don't want the variation of the class rights actually to happen. If they provide valid reasons to the court and the court analyzes them and sees they are valid reasons, the court will basically give out an order to stop the company from continuing to vary the class rights. So this is basically just to protect the majority in a class of shares, kulemea ama kuonea wale minority ambao hawana say. Hao wenye hawana say wako na njia ya kustop au majority kuwanyanyasa. Watawastop aje? Wataenda kwa court and simply they petition the court kwamba sisi tumepeana hizi reasons as to why we don't want the variation to happen, kwa sababu if it happen itakuwa inafinyilia sisi kama minority. If those reasons are valid, then court inapeana order kwa kampuni na waambia hamwezi proceed kwa sababu there has been a petition before the court and we basically think it is not okay to do the class rights variation, So that is mostly basically what will actually happen at a class meeting. That is basically what will happen at a class meeting. What will happen at a class meeting? What will happen at a class meeting? So creditors meeting, it is simply a meeting of the creditors of the company. So probably maybe they could be meeting to discuss on maybe the liquidation of the company. So they play a major role, for example, in the liquidation of the company. So they might meet maybe to appoint a liquidator to take over the operation of the company and liquidate the assets, maybe recover their money from the company. So we'll learn more about this one when we'll be looking at liquidation of the company. It is probably the last or second last topic in company law, second last topic in company law. So that is basically what will actually happen mostly with regard to do with the accreditors meeting, with regard to do with accreditors meeting. So we can look at company resolution. So there are usually two major resolutions that can actually happen in a meeting of a company. So there's one which I've dominantly mentioned as special resolution. There's another one that is known as an ordinary resolution. So resolution normally passed at a company meeting are two. We have an ordinary resolution and we have a special resolution. Especially when I've mentioned it dominantly, especially when since we started this particular class. But for an ordinary one, what you need to be able to know, an ordinary resolution, it is simply a resolution that basically has to be approved by a simple majority. What do you mean by a simple majority? So long as it is 50% plus, then such kind of a resolution basically can actually go ahead and actually be approved. An example can actually be able to give is, let's say, for example, a resolution approving the appointment of directors of the company. It doesn't need a special resolution. It just requires an ordinary. So long as it is 50% plus, have approved, then it can be, the company can proceed and actually appoint that such kind of a person as a director. Another example is, let's say, for example, approval of the annual accounts, approval of the annual dividends or proposed annual dividends, approval of the appointment of the auditors of the company. So those ones basically just require like an ordinary resolution, among other resolutions. But for special resolution, as I've said, this one basically requires at least 75% of the members who hold the voting rights of the company to be able to attend and actually vote at such kind of a meeting. Then it simply means that if they do so, then it will be concluded that the company has been able to pass a special. This is one which requires at least 75% of the members of the company to be able to approve. So the matters basically which will require, let's say, for example, a special resolution include, for example, share capital reduction. The share capital reduction will require a special resolution. Include, let's say, for example, a liquidation of the company. Liquidation of the company will require a special resolution. Mergers of the company, takeovers of the company, so they will require a special resolution. So those are some of the resolutions of basically that will require what we call a special resolution. A special resolution before the company can be able to proceed with such kind of matters. So those are the resolutions that will likely happen at a company meeting. So that is basically what you need to be able to know with regard to company meetings. So probably maybe what you need to be able to look at is maybe how they have been able to test this particular topic, let me see if I get maybe a few questions concerning company meetings, then we can see how you can be able to answer. So there's that question number 7A. There's that question number 7A. It's from what you can be able to see. It's November 2018. Question number 7A. Question number 7A. So so you can have Lucy Maina. Lucy Maina, you can read for us question number 7A. Lucy Maina, are you there? Okay, let's have Johnson. I can see Johnson. No. Johnson, you can read for us question number 7A. Johnson, are you there? Johnson? So you can have Johnson, you can read for us question number 7A. It's from November 2018. Is Johnson there?
Verse Sky, enumerate 5 duties and 5 powers.
Okay. Since Johnson audio is not proper, maybe it could be due to network. Due to network. But the
Share of a general.
The question says, with the reference to the case of national dwelling societies versus sites, enumerate 5 duties and 5 powers of the chairman of the general meeting of a company. Of the chairman of the general meeting of a company. So they're asking for the duties and powers of the chairman of the general meeting of a company. So that question was tested in November 2018, question number 7A. November 2018, question number 7A. So probably we could look at maybe the answers, what you can be able to give us the answers. So the answers are there. So duties of the chairman. So before the meeting commences, he has to satisfy himself that it has been properly convened and the provisions of the articles and the act have been followed. He must ensure that the meeting is properly constituted, i.e., his own appointment is in order and the quorum is present. Then in the course of the meeting, he must ensure that the proceedings are conducted strictly in accordance with the rules which govern the meeting. Then the next one, he has a duty to preserve order at the meeting. Then the next one, he must ensure that the business is dealt with in the order set out in the agenda paper unless the meeting consents to aberration of the order. And then he has a duty to allow reasonable discussion. Then he must ensure that the sense of the meeting is properly ascertained with regard to any question which is properly before the meeting. Those are basically some of the duties of this person we are calling the chairman. So it's one of the key essentials of a valid meeting in a company. So what are the powers? What are the powers? So powers simply mean that they say the chairman derives his powers mainly from the rules which govern the meeting over which he presides, also to some extent from the common law. So his main powers include to decide on points of order as they arise and to give and maintain his rulings on any point of procedure. To use a casting of his vote in good faith when there is an equality of votes and if the rules confer this power. The next one, to order remand of disorderly persons. Where necessary, reasonable force may be used to effect the removal of these persons concerned who has failed to withdraw after being requested to do so by the chairman. He has power to order the removal of any person who has no right to be present. Then the last one, to adjourn the meeting or basically postpone the meeting, maybe to any other time. So this particular power to adjourn the meeting basically is derived from the members of that members attending that particular meeting. What you mean by being derived from the members is that that particular adjournment must be approved or basically must be agreed upon by the members attending such kind of a meeting. So the chairman may adjourn the meeting in the following circumstances. What are the reasons? So maybe we could ask you, under what circumstances can the chairman adjourn the meeting? So when at the appointed time of the meeting, there is no quorum, so you can be able to adjourn or postpone. In the case of unforeseen emergencies, so maybe like a disaster, when he moves a motion of adjournment before the meeting and the meeting actually approves it, when it is impracticable to conduct the business of the meeting due to animosity between the members. You've seen sometimes in parliament, so people are fighting, so the chairman of that particular meeting, the speaker has to take control or charge. If there's animosity whereby these people cannot be able to sit together and deliberate on matters concerning the company, then of course he can actually decide to be able to postpone that particular meeting. So that's how basically you could have approached or answered that particular question. So just mention the duties, and of course the powers of the chairman. So this one basically actually in the notes I shared. Basically you'll be able to see these duties and powers of the chairman. So maybe for today we can end our class there. Maybe next time before we start the topic of directors, which is topic number 8, we'll be able to look at more questions regarding meetings, how you can be able to answer. So sometimes there have been simple questions like what are the contents of minutes? What are the contents of our notice of our meetings? Those kind of simple questions basically are normally tested. So you need to be very keen. But of course, if you actually check your notes, you'll be able to see they have clearly been indicated. So the contents of our minutes of our meeting of our company, contents of our notice of our meeting of our company, they could ask the exceptions, the ruling sharp versus Dawes. So you need to be able to clearly indicate what are the exceptions as we learned here in class. But of course, we'll look at probably more questions regarding the same before we start our next class. I think you can end there. So I don't know what will happen to maybe our next, because we'll be able to have our next class, but I'll be able to see whether I'll be able to make it. So I'll be away until probably, so our next class was supposed to be, is it on, supposed to be on Sunday. Sunday. There was that proposal to have the class on Friday, but I don't think this week it will be possible because I'll be away until, but that one of Sunday, I think it will be possible. So probably we could have our next class on Sunday, but Friday I won't be available. I'll be away for a few days. And probably I'm not sure about the Sunday class, but I'll be able to communicate. But I'll try my best that we have the class. So unless maybe there's a question, maybe you can ask now. You can ask now a question, or if there's a question you can ask. You have a question, you can ask that question right now, like in the next 2 minutes, because we have come to the end of this class. Today's class.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
If I may ask, the notes for this topic, the ones that you sent in the group of 7 or the more.
I can't get you clearly. You can be a bit audible.
I'm asking.
Yes.
The notes for this topic 7 that shared in the group, are those all the notes, or there something that is coming after that? Or may share?
There's nothing missing. Those are the notes. And that is topic number 7. That is topic
okay, thank you.
I know you are surprised you covered it in one lesson. some of the topics are not quite wide. Like you'll be surprised, topic is it number 9 or 10, company secretary. It has notes of like 3 pages. So those are the notes. Those are the notes for this particular topic. So don't expect that we'll have other notes. Maybe if we add, maybe it could be very few, just few notes. But those are the notes to be able to read. We are quite enough to be able to cover the topic. Those are the notes for this topic, number 7. So there are no any other notes. Those are the notes for this topic, and that is basically what you're supposed to be able to learn or cover under this topic. And probably what has been tested in the exams, basically it has basically ranged from the notes you have, ranged from the notes you just have. So nothing so different from the notes you have that are provided there. Any other question? Any other question? I can see Agnes. Agnes, are you there? Agnes? Agnes? I can see Agnes there.
Yes,
Do you have a question?
yes, not really.
Okay, fine. So if there is no any other question, then probably we'll meet next time and see how far we can be able to go. So next time, maybe I will look at more questions on company meetings before we start the topic of directors. So that is topic number 8. Topic number 8. Probably it will be on Sunday. It will be on Sunday, not actually on
Hakuna
Friday.
notes here,
because
topic number 8.
Monica, I think Monica has a question.
Notes.
You're saying?
Nasema notes ya topic number 8 hujatuma.
Oh, I haven't shared the notes for
Topic
number
8.
8. I haven't shared. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share. I'm going to share just after this. Maybe probably I'll share the notes for all the remaining topics up to topic number around 15. What I've just told you that some of the topics that are remaining are not quite so wide. They just have a few notes. So this is not a theory paper with a lot of notes, but especially those notes that we've shared, you might find that they test like almost each and every bit that is actually the notes. So don't assume anything. Make sure you basically go like through all the notes that we are providing, so they could test on almost each and every area. So it is good if you have an idea on everything that has been shared in terms of the notes. So other than that, I wish you all a good night, and I think we'll be able to meet next time. So if you come across a difficult question, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be able to assist during your free time. Ensure you are just make sure that at least you're basically, for example, you're not really even revising properly. You're just looking at the past papers. You can just open them and start perusing them. It will basically give you an idea of how they test. And of course, if you come across a very difficult question, then probably you could pause it and I could actually be able to assist. So I know maybe some of you don't have the time to be able to maybe cover some of these particular things because of maybe work or other issues. You are held up somewhere. But what I normally advise part-timers, so those people basically study part-time. So anytime basically you get a free time, so for example, if it is somewhere, you can be able to utilize like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You basically would rather just open even the notes. For example, when basically, for example, you are on the road or maybe on the matatu, you are moving, and somewhere you can be able to open maybe something to do with company meetings. You can read maybe just like 1 page of those particular notes for company meetings, and basically you could have grasped something instead of having to wait until the last time you're saying, I'm going to take leave and revise. So you might find that you have a lot that you have to revise. You won't be able to cover everything during that revision time. So any free time you have, basically you won't get a proper time to study. You are doing part-time study. You will never get. Probably after this class, you are going to fall to become sleepy. So don't be cheated that you will sit down and start reading. Basically, you are going to sleep. So we are basically just going to be busy after this particular class. So that's what I'm saying. Anytime you get free time, if it is even like 15 minutes, maybe it is a lunch break, 15 minutes. If you can get a page, just open a page. So you have the notes on soft. Open a page and just have, you can just look at them. Read like even a paragraph. Because if you wait, you go home, maybe after the class, you sit down and start studying. Some of us have gone through this. We know what normally happens. So the moment you just open the book, start becoming sleepy. Just decide, let me just go and sleep. Maybe I'll have another time when I take leave to be able to study. So you just basically be focused. Pushing forward your time to revise it becomes a bit difficult. So that's what we are saying. Anytime you get any free time, even if it is 10 minutes or 15 minutes, with maybe a question in financial management, maybe in financial reporting, you can just even open and start having looking at it, how it was solved, instead of having to wait for the last time or the last minutes to be able to revise. Although we shall still assist you during that last minute to be able to revise, but it's good you start early by yourself. So that when you're mentioning a point during the revision time, I don't think it's like the teacher is talking about something you've never heard about. So you have an idea of it. So you come to kupitia tu, you come to peruse, and just to refresh yourself. And basically, these particular points will be able to stick and it will become very easy for you. So I wish you all a good night. We'll meet next time.